Welcome back to Organizational Development and Change, Block 3 Forms of Organizational Change, Unit 10 Process Page Change. Here we will be covering the introduction part, organizational transformational process, the need for improving processes, process-based change methods, process-based change, reasons for process-based change, then implementing the BPR strategy, that is business process re-engineering strategies, factor that influence whether BPR is advisable, challenges of the BPR approach, how to avoid BPR failure, total quality management, that is known as TQM, downsizing, outsourcing, the process to manage the change. A continuous improvement initiative has become the norm for a large cross section of organizations throughout the world today. The main aim is often to reinvent themselves as a cut above the competitors, fine tune to customers' need, and adapt to changes in the business conditions. A number of techniques and approaches can be used to support to this process like the SWOT analysis, right sizing, organizational analysis and review, total quality management, Six Sigma, breakthrough management, re-engineering, operational excellence, etc. Nevertheless, at the heart of each of these programs remains the ultimate object of achieving breakthrough by fundamentally changing the way business is executed. Change is a process which progress over a period of time. Whilst change itself always carries with it improbability, the process of change should be managed by an effective plan, unambiguous rules, processes, protocol, and systems. Educational researchers have identified the change process for both organizational and individual. Like, the change is not a single event. It takes time to plan for change, try new practices, and incorporate new programs effectively. Change can energize, act as a catalyst, and build a sense of community. The process of change may not be embraced by all. Conflicts are a natural create the appropriate structure, rules, and performance culture needed for the process improvements. The need for business process improvement because the competition and the performance force businesses to improve their business processes in the contemporary era. It is because of the competition and the performance. So business process improvement is visible over the last 2 decades because of several reasons like globalization demanding customers and shareholders, the role of shareholders, competitions, and the performance culture are but a few mentioned here. Companies normally undertake business process improvement using two models. First one is continuous process improvement and the second one is breakthrough engineering model. In continuous improvement model, which we call as a CPI, this method is used to obtain gradual incremental improvement in business processes. Organizations first use this method to make small changes wherever it is needed. New technologies or improvised versions of the technologies are the best examples of this kind of model. So this model actually helps the organization to bring some new capabilities to the employees and rapid expose the business to change, thereby making them competitive and infusing the need to improve the business processes drastically at the later date. Here we can see in the figure 1, it's a continuous process improvement model where the improvement is planned, implemented, then measured, then as is where. That means where it is going, how the process is improving. That's a continuous improvement process. Now the need for the business process improvement, like to start with the organization. To start with the organization, document the process as is what is termed as is where condition. So this is followed by where we are trying to establish measure based on what the customer or the client require. Then we have to measure the results takes place when, and then to follow and implement the process in the next step. So here we can see as is where is done, then how or where we measures according to the customers and need. Then we are implementing this based on the data collected after following the process of improvement opportunities are identified. The organization then implement the improvement and measure the performance of the new process. This process get repeated for a continuous process improvement attempted in the organization. So we have to measure where we are, then we have to see what are our customers or client require. Again, we have to implement it, then we can see some improvement, and this is a continuous improvement process. But when we are talking about the breakthrough engineering model, so contemporary trends in the world markets include the opening of economies and the consequent increase in free trade. Changes of this nature provide more goods and services, and hence more companies actually competing for the same space. Further, the VUCA, which we call as volatility, uncertain, complex, and ambiguous, times makes the competitive landscape more uncertain, with the result, the survival of the businesses itself becomes a challenge. Such challenges actually force organizations to opt for the methods that provide cost leadership along with look for simple process improvements. So re-engineering processes, however, has an integral part of the organizational growth for a quite long, but the pace of the change and the need for this breakthrough performance entails process changes that are in the nature of the path-breaking innovative solutions rather than an incremental change. So, the speed with which the change is taking place does not allow businesses to go with a slow change process. Rather, look for a breakthrough models. Process-based change methods. The different methods of re-engineering processes are BPR, that is business process re-engineering, total quality management, TQM, outsourcing, and downsizing. Three facts about the change, that is everywhere, that is constantly present, and the pace of change is increasingly experienced by organizations and the individuals alike. Thus, managing change assumes some significance. So, it is a methodology that actually integrates change and ability to adapt into organization. It is an organized, systematic application of knowledge, tools, and resources of change that provide organization with the key process to achieve their strategies. A process-based change, that means a process is a specific ordering of work activities across time and space with a beginning and end and clearly identified inputs and outputs, a structure for action. So a business process is seen as a group of logically related tasks that actually uses the organizational resources to provide customer oriented results in support of their objectives. Spectrum of change, this is in a contemporary organization is denoted by some few factors. So most notable are the automation, rationalization of the procedures, re-engineering, and a paradigm shift. So each of these provides benefits in return to the organization. All the same, each of them actually entails risk which could be high or as low. So here is a diagrammatic representation of the spectrum of change, where you can see in the low and low there is automation, with the next is followed by rationalization, that's some kind of risk, with re-engineering with a high risk, and paradigm shift with the most risky factors. So this is the spectrum of change with a diagrammatic representation from low to high of risk as well as return. So when there is adoption of any kind of automation, there will be low return as well as less risk will be associated. And further, when we go with the rationalization, the risk and the return will be in the higher scale. Further, going for re-engineering process, both risk and return will be again much more higher than rationalization and automation. And at the last, the paradigm shift, where both the high risk and high return is there. So automation refers to the computerization of the processes to speed up the existing task, thus improving the efficiency and effectiveness. We know that with the help of the computer systems, we make the task more easier. So in terms of the risk and return, it is low because of the quality enhancement and speed in which the tasks are done. That's why here we can see it is low. Rationalization of procedures refer to the streamlining of the standard operating procedures, which we call as SOP, eliminating bottlenecks that normally occurs, thus enabling automation to make operating procedures more efficient and effective. So simplification of procedures improves definitely efficiency and effectiveness in the organizational workflow. So the risk and the return associated are thus medium, as the procedures get outdated over the time because of changes in the policy. So business process re-engineering refers to a radical redesign of business processes, and therefore it aims at eliminating repetitive, paper intensive and bureaucratic tasks, thus reducing the cost significantly, and in the process improving the both the product and the service quality. Since it is a radical redesign of business processes, it is high in terms both in risk and also provides high return to the organization in terms of the result. That means a paradigm shift finally is considered is a more radical form of change where the nature of the business and the nature of the organization is actually questioned. Paradigm shift improve the strategic standing of the organization. Thus, these factors in general actually demonstrate the spectrum of change. Now, reasons for the process of change. First is the technological advancement. With the like the emergence of new technologies, basically the CRM, e-business, and knowledge managed technology is now considered as a strategic tool rather than an automation tool is in the past. As new technologies are developed day by day and implemented, the skills is and the work habit required for the employees also change. The advancement in the IT, that is information technology, requires organization to be able to develop an IT strategy that fully supports and enables the business strategy to develop as well as grow. One need to listen to the business needs and translate them into the technology requirements. Make the common database available to all its customer service management by thereby joining the market and the business strategy with the data provision. Next, use easy access to knowledge management approach and technology to turn individual knowledge into company-wide knowledge speedily and effectively. The BPR concept, when we are talking about business process reengineering, it is a redesign of business processes and the associated systems, organization structures to achieve a dramatic improvement in business performance. Poor financial performance, competition, drilling market share, new market opportunities, then customer demands, etc. are some of the few business reasons for undertaking the business process reengineering. Literature creates confusion in using these terms like downsizing, restructuring, redesign, reorganization, automation, new technology, etc. are used synonymously with BPR. But BPR is not equivalent to these terms. 5 components of business are examined and changed in BPR. First of all, you need to understand there are 5 main components of BPR, that is business process reengineering. The first component is the strategy. The second one is the process. The third one is the technology. The fourth one is organization, and the fifth one is culture. So BPR is not to be confused with the other terms like restructuring, redesign, reorganization, automation, new technology. But one has to see that when BPR is considered, it has mainly the 5 component, that is strategy, process, technology, organization, and the culture. So Michael Hammer and James Champy define BPR as the fundamental rethinking and radical redesign of business process to bring about dramatic improvement in performance. So it is fundamental insofar as the organization is expected to know why they do or what they do. What exactly is done in terms of change. It also means some kind of ignoring like what is and focus on what it should be. So radical, on the other hand, implies business reinvention, that is vis-a-vis business improvement. So business improvement is incremental in nature in contrast to business reinvention, which is a new radical change that is designed and implemented. And dramatic refer to re-engineering, which is brought in when a need exists for a heavy blasting. Thus, companies that are in deep trouble, companies that expect trouble, and companies that are in peak condition look at for a dramatic changes. So a business process is a collection of activities that takes one or more kinds of inputs and creates an output that is of some value to the customer. So rather than organizing a firm into a functional element like marketing, finance, production, operations, etc., and to look at the tasks that each employee or each functions perform, Hammer and Chappie recommended a complete process re-engineering right from the procurement of material, production, marketing, distribution, etc. So they recommended that the organization of the firm be rebuilt with a series of processes. Value creation for the customer is the leading objective of BPR, with technology playing the role as an enabler. BPR and the organization. BPR is a group of logically related tasks that use the firm's resources to provide customer oriented results in support of the organizational objective. That means they have to see that they are providing customer oriented result which has to be aligned with the organizational objectives. So organizations re-engineer because of the customer as well as this competition. So re-engineering process takes place mainly because of the customer needs and because of the competitions, the cutthroat competition which is happening in the market. So the customers today are actually demanding and expecting the organization to know everything about the environment so that they take the right decision on their choice of the product with less resources to spend. The customer also demand it with a speed, making no mistakes and expecting to be fully informed about their changing needs. Thus, they demonstrate sophistication to put forth their demand. In addition, organizations re-engineer because of the competition around them, both at the local level as well as at the global level. So, further drastic changes in technology and customer preferences also drives organization to re-engineer their process quite frequently. So BPR is a process which integrate people, technology and organizational culture. Because once you are taking a step towards BPR, you first need to identify that why it is being taken, because of the customer needs, because of the competition, and again you have to align all these things so that you integrate both the people, then technology and organizational culture to be a successful BPR process. Some reasons, like here we can see some of the process flow charts and has some of the following symbols. Like when we are deciding for a BPR, we have to make a logically a sequenced chart where we need to represent how we are going for a change. So like here we can see the boxes which represent an activity and a document, a rhombus representing a decision, the parallelogram is representing data, that is inputs as outputs, then a square as a predefined process with a start of the process with the end of the process, circle representing the a relation, that's a continuous process of the same page at equal symbol with same number used with relation arrows crosses another relation arrow, then off-page connectors, then integration relations. Similarly, the process reengineering also uses data flow symbols. Then again with an activity and a document which is again repeated here. Then here a decision, then a flat data file, manual data item, file data. These are the symbols which are represented in the flowchart. Then here we start, then generate purchase order. Then if it is okay, yes or no, then crossing the lines are not allowed. Then we have to end it, then continuous symbols within the same number, then the purchase order, then off-page connectors, then posting of the bonus, that the name of the data. Implementing the BPR strategy, that is the C's related to organizational reengineering projects. Here we can see that the 3 C's of the organization and the 4 C's of the effective teams. So the 3 C's of the organization's reengineering are customer, competition, and change. And when we are relating it to the 4 C's of effective team, then it will be commitment, cooperations, contributions, and communication. So the first 3 C's related to organizational reengineering is customer, competition, and change. And when we are talking about the 4 C's of effective team, they should have commitment, they should have cooperation, they should have transparent communication, and right contribution. Now, key steps in BPR. First, we need to select the process and appoint the process team. Then we need to understand the current process. Next step, we have to develop and communicate the vision of improved process. Then identify action plan, and then we have to execute the plan. So when you are implementing this BPR strategy, these are the key steps. Like first, one need to select the process and appoint the process team. Second is understand the current process. Then develop and communicate the vision of the improved process. Then we need to identify the action plan, like how we are going to start with. Once it has been identified, then we have to execute the plan of action. Implementing the BPR strategy, that is BPR is advisable. Like an organization can consider some of the following factors. Like, is BPR necessary for the company? Should the organization consider gradual or incremental improvements or radical changes? Then is the company clearly outperforming or to stay in the competition with BPR? Are there any kinds of maybe conflicts, dispute in the use of this approach in the organization? Are the communication channels clear, transparent, and structured? Then, does the company have the process which needs to redesign it urgently? Are the IT levelers supportive and capabilities sufficient to support this BPR? And is the culture conducive enough to take up this BPR? So there are some challenges of the BPR approach. Some common problems are like the process of simplifications that the organization's attempts is common, but true BPR in letter and spirit is not. BPR may not yield the expected results if the desire to change is not that strong enough. The starting point for the existing process to be changed is not normally a blank slate, and hence it is a challenge for the organization to audit the existing process and to look at the results that accrue after re-engineering. If the commitment to the existing process is too strong from the management or the employees, that itself will act as a deterrent. So most processes actually fails as the organization think of changing them till they become obsolete. If the process under the review is too big or too small, the organization actually postpones their BPR initiative. The cost of change, when it appears too large, makes the organization rethink about BPR. One of the challenges that might crop up when the BPR is seen as an isolated activity, not aligned with the business objectives, goals, mission, and visions. Organizational experience also demonstrate that BPR sometimes fails because of the mere allocation of resources. Poor timing and planning implementation also will derail the entire process. The organizational challenge lies in keeping the team and organizational target. It's definitely a challenge where we have to see the team as well as we have to see the organizational target. Sometimes, or maybe quite often, a gradual and incremental change might be a better approach, and problems might occur when this BPR is culturally biased towards the US way of thinking actually. So how to avoid this BPR failure? To avoid the failure of BPR process, experts have recommended the following steps, like BPR must be accompanied by strategic planning, which addresses leveraging IT as a competitive tool. Then place the customer at the center of the re-engineering effort and concentrate on re-engineering fragmented process that lead to delays or negative impacts on the customer you are serving. Then a sense of ownership should prevail throughout the organization and not driven by group of outside consultants. That means a kind of ownership has to be taken up by the individual, and they should not solely depend on the experts or consultants who are hired from the external sources. Then the process team must be comprised of both the managers as well as those who will actually do the work. Because if only managers are there, it will be not communicated well to the person who will be actually doing and implementing the work. So the team must be comprising both the managers as well as those who will actually work for it. The IT support is a very crucial and important, and hence the IT group should be an integral part of the re-engineering process from the beginning of the process. The team and the process owner must be supported by the top executives who do not leave or retire when the process is on. That is when actually the difficult happen, when the top executives have supported and they in between retire or leave the organization, then the BPR will definitely be a failure. So it has to be ensured that the top executives are constantly supporting, and in the meantime, while the completion of the BPR process, they are not leaving the organization or retiring from the organization. So the BPR projects must have an action plan which must be supported by the top executive who are actually not living in between. So BPR project must have an action plan with a clear time frame, ideally between 6 to maybe 3 to 6 months, so that the organization is not in a state of limbo. So BPR should not ignore organizational culture and must emphasize on the constant communication as well as feedback. So the re-engineering diamond, which says how we need to see the customer and suppliers, the competitors, the culture and the market. We have to see the values and beliefs, how it is interlinked with the management and measurement system, then job skill and organizational structure, then business process and functions. It is intellect with the customers and infotech, that is the IT. These, when you are able to intellect all these things, then you can implement this successfully. So that's why this is the re-engineering diamond. So here you can see it enlightens, it fosters, it demands, and it entails. That means the link between the management and measurement system with the value and ethics, it actually fosters. Then the link between values and beliefs with the business process and functions, it actually enlightens. Link between the business process and functions with the job, skill, and the organization structures, it actually entails. And the management and measurement system with the link to job skills and organization structure, it actually demands. So taking into consideration the competitors, the market, the organizational culture, the customer and supplier, this re-engineering process makes or been implemented. So, total quality management, that is TQM. It is a description of the culture, attitude, and organization of a company that places a customer at the forefront of the quality decision making. That is, the culture requires quality in all aspects of the company's operation, with processes done right the first time and the defects or wasted eradicated from the operations. Thus, it places greater emphasis on the roles and responsibilities on the every member of the staff within the organization to influence quality. The elements of TQM. The TQM proponents classify the elements as the soft and the hard elements. When we are talking about the soft elements, that is according to Rahman 2004, the soft elements include the behavioral aspects of the management like the leadership, employee involvement, empowerment, training, communication, strategic, quality management, and customer focus. Whereas when we are talking about the hard elements, it consists of advanced manufacturing system, statistical process control, and zero defect mentality. So among these elements, the soft elements override the contribution of the hard elements, which signals that the attitude towards the quality is superior in implementing advanced quality tools. The method, it is a management philosophy that integrates all the organizational functions to focus on meeting the customer needs and organizational objective. Here also we can see that they have to align the customer needs and the organizational objectives. So the fundamental concept of TQM from British standard, that is BS 7850, is a process which is a set interrelated resources and activities which transform inputs to outputs. It is also seen as any activity that accepts input, add value to these inputs for customers, and produces output of these customers who may be either internal or external to the organization. The simple objective of total quality management TQM is that to do the things right the first time and every time. That means do the things right, the first time and every time. That means first time you have to do right and every time you have to do it right. The principle of TQM, the first principle is the management commitment. The key principle of this management commitment includes where the management drives and directs the processes and where they deploy, support, and participate in the process. They also check and review the process and finally act it by recognizing, revising if needed, and then communicating the decision. Then comes employee empowerment. The process owners and all those involved in the enhancement activity are trained and empowered to own up the process. The measures and the recognition that actually follows for the activity completion is also done in this principle. Suggestions are sought from the process owners and the others, and the excellent teams are identified here. Next principle is the fact decision making. Decisions are fact based with the use of statistical process control and the statistical tools. Technology support is also taken for quantifying the measures and also the team oriented problem solving methods. Next element is the continuous improvement. This principle actually focuses on the systematic measurement of the activities and also the way it is implemented by the excellence team. So continuous improvement also includes cross-functional process management to attain, maintain and improve the standards. Next is the customer focus. So this principle includes customer focus and supplier partnership. Customer also include the internal customer where the service relationship is maintained. It also includes customer driven standard, never compromising on the quality aspects. Now these are the enablers of TQM. That is, effective TQM implementation presupposes understanding the importance of TQM in the organization. The organization actually must recognize the weaknesses and strength and advantages of implementing TQM and the tools to be used in its implementation. So this understanding will provide the clarity for TQM journey and enhance their readiness to complete the process. Now, developing a conducive culture is another enabler for effective implementation of TQM. Like trust, collaboration, transparency, teamwork, unlearn and relearn are essential for a conducive TQM environment, resulting in a conducive or supporting culture. Appropriate HR interventions like training and development, performance management, rewards and incentive systems are essential for motivating the employees, enabling effective TQM implementation. Next is open channels for communication and transparency is highly necessary for a shared vision. So frequent discussions and meetings and other modes of communication help in open communication system. TQM implementation is better enabled by cross-functional teams and the organizational initiatives of empowering the employees to take decision and learn by correcting the mistakes. Next, effective TQM implementation can be best enabled by how you want to integrate the performance management with the identified quality systems. So, according to Deming, one reasons for poor implementation is lack of integration with the HR initiatives, especially that is PMS, performance management systems. Technological support as an enabler for effective TQM, implementing the employee support cannot be ignored. The technology platforms, tools, and techniques are definitely a key enablers for an effective implementation. The support and the initiative of the top management or top executive is an important enabler for an effective TQM implementation. Significance of TQM in organization, it is definitely a cost-effective method to ensure quality in an organization. Since the total quality management process strives for excellence, the errors are removed and the defects are plugged, leading to cost effectiveness in the organization. TQM is a journey towards business excellence and hence continuous improvement is assured. TQM is a systematic approach towards quality and hence implies team functioning, management support coupled with employee support leads to a collaborative effort for all the divisions in the organization. Continuous quality improvement drives the organization towards excellence, thus improving the job satisfaction of the employees in the organization. The idea of total quality management is geared towards the customers. The significance arises from the fact that both the internal and the external customer, along with their feedback, is considered important for TQM. The concept of continuous improvement. The TQM is linked or concerned with the continuous improvement, that is CI, leading to excellence in the organization in all elements of work, that is a Kaizen, in Japanese word for a continuous improvement. Kaizen is a word which is used by Japanese, which mean continuous improvement. So continuous improvement include three major mechanisms for preventing mistakes by the employees. The first one is preventing mistakes or defects from occurring. That means you should take all kinds of preventions so that it should not occur. The mistake should not occur. Second, if the mistake cannot be totally prevented, detecting them early so as to prevent them being passed on through the value added change. And this mechanism includes an inspection at the source and every operation. Next one is wherever mistakes occur, stopping production until the process is corrected to prevent more defects. So there are three major mechanisms how one can prevent mistake. First is we should try that mistake should not occur. That means we should prevent that mistake should not occur. And if that mistake, second one is that if that mistake cannot be prevented, early detection is required so as to prevent them being passed through the value added chain. This mechanism includes an inspection at source and every operation. And at the last, wherever this mistake occur, stopping the production until the process is corrected to prevent more defects. That means one has to stop the production and has to check all the processes so that further mistakes does not occur. Now, barriers to implementing TQM: lack of definition of quality, lack of a formalized strategic plan for change, lack of a customer focus, poor communication, lack of employee trust in senior management, the view that TQM is a quick fix, drive for short-term financial results, and organizational politics. These will definitely act as a barrier in implementation of the total quality management. Now, what are the criticisms of TQM? Like blind pursuits of TQM as a method of change. That means blindly we will be following that TQM is the one method which will be helping us. Then programs may not be linked to the strategies. That's what we need to see, that whatever the aims, it should link to the organizational strategies. Then quality related decisions may not be tied to market performance. Then failure to carefully plan and implement a TQM program. Now the term downsizing. Downsizing is a process in which companies remove temporarily to indefinitely a number of employees from the payroll. A number of reasons are put forth for the companies to downsize or right size which include changes in the business environment, globalization, technology and automation, competitions, performance orientations, etc. Although the companies use this method to manage change, especially with large number of staff or excessive staff, does not deliver desirable results. On the contrary, it places the organization on a negative path. So downsizing is a method where the junior employees are terminated first across all departments in the organization. The action of the organization can certainly be defended in a court of law. Laying off 10% of employees across all the department on the basis of the seniority can be dismissed if employees go to the court of the law stating discrimination as a reason for the layoff. So it may succeed from a legal perspective, but cannot from a larger human resource perspective. Downsizing by flat percentage across all department may be irrational in some cases in view of critical activities in certain departments. In view of the organizational health, one method of laying off the company could be done in phases or from departments after analyzing the business needs of the company following an objective rather than some arbitrary measures in the downsizing process. So the what is the Japanese approach of downsizing? The concept of lifelong employment is an important element in the Japanese businesses. And unlike American companies, this concept has shaped their approach to reduce the workforce. So it is planned as a series of stages aimed at lowering the cost and at the same time try to maximize and preserve the number of jobs. So the different stages are Koyososi, that means a reduction in the number of hours in overtime, reduction in the hours or days worked, and internal transfers through job rotation or transfers, then employment usage of temporary leave, non-renewable contract of part-time workers, etc., which cost labor cost through a wage cut. Then employee transfer to the suppliers and subsidiary of the company. It takes two forms, that is Jaiseki Suko, which means the employees are temporarily transferred, but they are still retained by the parent company. And the second one is Isiki Suko, that is where the employees are relieved to be absorbed by the other companies. So this form equates with early separation schemes followed by companies across the world. This method is followed after exhausting all the methods of layoff and downsizing. So now the term outsourcing. The outsourcing or contracting out is often defined as the delegation of the non-core activities or jobs for internal production from within a business to an external entity, that is subcontract, who specializes in such activities. Outsourcing involves considerable degree of two-way information exchange, coordination, and trust. Now, what are the benefits? Why companies usually go for outsourcing? Many large businesses continue to outsource even in today's contemporary world. During that, it has resulted in business success. A number of benefits accrue to the company, like it increases their product quality because the outsourced company has the requisite expertise in that product or service. This method actually lowers the cost substantially as the infrastructure and the overhead need to be borne by the parent company. Next, economist. This is a technological innovation like the use of automation in the car assembly line. We can take example like Ford Motor Company relies heavily on the workers to assemble the parts earlier, but they were replaced with machines. This also enabled the company to have a better quality and lower cost with automation. So this cycle, according to the economists, yield many results, many more results in the companies. So the main part when we were looking at this change that is in TQM, the method of TQM, the principles of TQM, that is management commitment, employee empowerment, fact-based decision making, continuous improvement, customer focus. Then what are the enablers for TQM implemented is we need to implement presupposes understanding the importance of TQM in the organization. The organization actually must recognize both the strength as well as weaknesses and the advantages, opportunities of implementing the TQM. Then developing a supporting or conducive culture is again will be effective for an implementation of TQM, that is maybe mostly the terms like trust, collaboration, transparency, teamwork, unlearn and relearning are essential of a conducive culture so that this TQM can be implemented successfully. Then appropriate HR interventions like training and development, performance management, rewards and incentive systems are essential for motivating the employees, enabling the TQM implementation to be quite effective. And the open channels of the communication and transparency is necessary for a shared vision for so that's why the frequent discussions and meetings and other modes of the communication help in open communication system. The TQM implementation is better enabled by cross-functional teams and the organizational initiative of empowering the employees to take decision and learn by how they should be correcting their mistakes. Effective TQM implementation can be best enabled by integrating performance management with the identified quality system. Then technological support as an enabler for the TQM implementation and employee support cannot actually be ignored. And the
Now let
next,
us
the
learn
support
about
and
present
initiative of
value of a
top
regular
management
annuity.
is quite
As
important
regular
for
annuity
effective
means you are
implementation
getting the
of
money
TQM.
every
Then the significance is quite important where it is cost effective and it will be leading to business excellence and will be assuring continuous improvement. And we know that TQM is a systematic approach where trust area is quality and management will definitely support the collaborative effort of all the divisions of the organization. So continuous quality improvement drives the organization towards excellence, and the idea of definitely the TQM is geared towards the customer. Customers are the main oriented part. Then we got the term downsizing, how this process in which the companies remove temporarily or indefinitely a number of employees from their payroll, and how Japan is been taking up, like they believe in long-term employment or lifelong employment, and how the different stages like koyososi, employment freeze, employment that is zaiseki suko and iseki suko has been taken up by the Japanese approach. And at last the outsourcing, how outsourcing or like contracting is often delegation of non-core activities or job from internal production from within the business to an external entity, that means who actually specializes the activities. So the process to manage change, that is implementation of both processes, bring a large scale organizational change, which must be managed properly actually. First, every employee must be strive to apprise the situation as to identify major barriers and evolve strategies to deal with the new situation. And second, most important, the organization itself must clarify the both mission, vision, reasons for the change, and establish the roles, responsibilities, and structure to support the change, and determine the key strategies for achieving the change, and develop implementation plans including support mechanisms, and implement and monitor progress. Thank you. So meet you in the next class.